This week on the Orange Box podcast, we talk about the insane prices for the Lenovo Legion Go 2, Silksong breaking digital storefronts, Nintendo's insane anti-Palworld blah, blah, blah. Nintendo's insane anti-Palworld patent. Try to say that 5 times fast, and more. All of this tonight, but first, on to the new Beautiful Bean intro. Welcome to the place where PC and console gaming talk combine. This is the Orange Box Podcast, episode 101. I am your host, the man who has a detachable disk drive, Nathan, also known as the Frozen Gamer 87. And joining me, as always, the man who broke the internet when he released the full Orange Box Podcast intro, Justin, better known as I Am Zaracon. How you doing today? How's your week been?
It's been a pretty enjoyable weekend. So Thursday after we did the podcast stuff the previous night, I was trying to get everything ready as far as the full intro theme, and I got through most of everything. There was only the problem of trying to, and I've mentioned this before with you about having issues with the MIDI getting that to sustain, and I was on the cusp of trying to figure out the answer and the solution. But then the following day, what happened was after work, my sister and my mother, we were going to actually go to our state fair together. My brother-in-law was supposed to join us, but unfortunately he had to work that evening, so it's just the three of us. So we went there, we had a good time, and I mean, it's been about probably I would say maybe 5 to 6 years since I last went to our state fair, but it was definitely enjoyable. We had a good time going out there. We went on some rides. We had some different foods, stuff to try there that we also just enjoyed. And I mean, my mom and sister, I was trying to get them to go on a couple rides. They said, "No, we're fine. We think you're crazy going on a couple of these anyway." I said, "Nah, I can handle it." But yeah, it was definitely a good time. And I mean, afterwards, we made a stop somewhere, got a small snack, and then headed back. And I actually ended up spending the night there because I knew my niece and nephew. I had sort of promised that I would see them, so I spent Saturday there, and just hanging out with them. And also, my niece, she wants me to remember to bring my Steam Deck as well as some controllers to play. So we spent a good time gaming on there. And while I thought I was gonna be coming home that day, they sort of talked me into spending the night again, so spent the night there, and ended up coming home Sunday. And then eventually after that point, I came home and finally went back to working on the rest of the music. And I discovered that the notes will sustain when you initially boot up Pro Tools. So if you're able to record the MIDI as an audio track, then you'll be fine. And I think from what I've also been able to guess, the more MIDI you have, or at least the more MIDI tracks you have, the harder it is for the notes to sustain. Because I think another couple tracks that were difficult to hold the notes, once there were fewer tracks that were active that were MIDI, they were able to work fine. So I think it was really just having so many different MIDI tracks at the same time caused them to have issues on that. And so I think mainly just recording them as audio tracks, which, thinking back about how that's how I sort of like worked with MIDI originally, that was ultimately the best thing to do, and something that I will continue doing moving forward, as far as with just like mixing and stuff. So got that taken care of, and I posted that video Monday afternoon. But yeah, that's essentially everything that's happened this past week.
Good stuff. Yeah, the new theme, I love it. More likely than not, I'll probably start including it um in the intro for the show. Like, so, I have the Beautiful Bean intro, which is basically just like the first handful of seconds, the first 18 seconds or whatever of the full version. So my thought is that I can just kind of have the song continue from there, just quieter for the beginning of the podcast going forward. So we'll see if that works out. Then I think that'll be a good way to include the full version, because I wanted to have it in there for sure. But yeah, so anyway, yeah, I'm glad though that you were able to get that done, and well done. Of course, it's very very good. I've been listening to it off and on, spreading it around where I can, even if my reach is not very far. But yeah. On my end, not a whole lot of events over the past week, other than my wife's birthday on Sunday. So Saturday, I gave her the day off um, as one of her birthday gifts. So she just didn't have to do anything with the kids or feed them or anything. She just was able to relax. And then we um, went out for dinner as a family, and um, it was just a good, relaxing day across the board. I ended up not really doing anything productive that day. Instead, I decided to be more productive on Sunday. But um, Sunday we did music, and I mean at church, of course, and then um, Sunday afternoon. So I ended up grabbing the the PC from my church that we were so that I could try to see if I could fix it, see if I could update the BIOS, and if that would fix the problem. I was having problems figuring out how to even get the BIOS update, especially because it's like a really old Dell computer that's not supported anymore officially. It does seem to be a custom motherboard. It's also it's a mini ATX, so it's not, or min ITX, whatever it is. Anyway, the point is that it's a smaller motherboard, and it's a smaller case, so it doesn't fit a full-size motherboard. So initially I was going to put in the full-size motherboard from the guest room computer, and then put the one that was in my desktop right now, put that one in, the one that has my i9 processor. But of course, then I found out that the case was too small. So instead, I just I had the church ordered a case for me and a power supply, because it wasn't really going to be doable to take out the power supply, and I figured, if we get one that's powerful enough to handle the motherboard that has like the i5 processor and the 32 gigs of RAM, that would, then I could just build a new computer for the church, and it's super easy to do. I have plenty of extra screws and all that, so that got ordered, and once I get those parts, which will probably be on Friday, I'll get the computer put together for the church. But because I decided to do that, I used that as an opportunity on Sunday to go ahead and put the motherboard with my i9 processor and 64 gigs of RAM into the what was the guest room computer and now is the living room computer. So I just I haven't had time to do like a ton of customization with it yet. Um Basically I had a long HDMI cable already, so I just plugged it into the TV. And initially I was trying to figure out the best way to set it up. What I ended up doing, at least for the time being, is I have one of the monitors that was being used with that computer on top of the tower, and then so that way I can have that and the TV connected, and then just have the mouse and keyboard on a couple of TV tables in front of it for the time being. I mean, I'll try to figure out a better setup. I'll probably at some point get like a wireless mouse and keyboard for it, for doing any stuff that needs to be done with it, but at least for now, that's the way it's set up. Honestly, the biggest challenge with that is going to be figuring out what to do with it when Christmas time rolls around, because we usually have to move one of our couches away from the wall in order to make room for the tree. And so um, then I have no idea where that stuff is going to go. So that part I haven't figured out yet, but just working with what we have for the time being, and um, we'll make it work one way or another. But yeah, so that computer has the i9 9900K, 64 gigs of DDR4 RAM, the GTX 980. Yeah, that's pretty much the specs. So it's not like a super capable machine, but it can play quite a number of games. Um, since this isn't going to be something that I actually talk about during the part where I'm talking about games, I'll just mention that I did boot up briefly Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart just to see how it ran. I only played like the very beginning of the part where you actually take control of Ratchet, and it seemed like it was running really well. I didn't do any checks to see what the frame rate was or anything. I mostly just wanted to see how it looked and ran, but I didn't mess with the settings at all. If my kids show interest in actually playing it, then I will probably double check the settings and make them a little bit better, mostly for the sake of like getting rid of motion blur, which I may have actually done a little bit with settings. I can't remember. I know I didn't do much if I did anything, but anyway, getting rid of motion blur, making sure FSR is not turned on. I think I may have already done some of that, but I honestly don't remember because it was just like very quickly I tested it out before they went to bed the other night. But that I did get it set so that Steam starts up when Windows starts up, and then it goes directly into big picture mode. Initially, I had tried to set it up to where it would just boot into Steam first thing, like it wouldn't even go into Windows, it would just go straight to Steam big picture mode. And so, you have more of the console experience. But then I realized that as nice as that is, if you don't set it up to where Explorer still boots up, then it makes it more challenging to be able to do anything on the normal PC side of stuff if you need to. And so I know that there's a way to do it with like the task scheduler or something, but I just haven't had time to mess around with it. So I'll probably mess with that over the weekend, see if I can get that set up properly, because I do still want it to boot into Steam first so that the kids can play games, but I also want to make sure that Windows still boots up normally, so that if I need to change anything on the back end, I can easily do that, rather than it being like, okay, I have to kind of go through extra steps in order to get to Windows, because Explorer doesn't actually boot up, so you don't have any normal access to folders and such, which is kind of more of a hassle figuring it out after I did that. So I basically, after I did that and it wasn't booting up Explorer, I just reverted it to having Explorer start up first, and then it still boots directly into boots into Steam and big picture mode right after it starts up. So it works either way. But I did grab the kids Minecraft on PC. So the only thing with that is I have to mess around with it, because I know that there's a way to do split screen, but I need to actually mess with it in order to get it set up for doing split screen, so that they have the option of doing multiplayer that way. Otherwise, the only other option that does still technically work, but is not ideal in my opinion, is they can just do split screen on the Switch, and then the third person can play on the PC, which will definitely give them better visuals and performance and everything, but I'd kind of rather it have the option of doing split screen on both, because the PC is going to be much better for that. And then you get the actual 60 frames the whole time instead of it just being, well, mostly because I'm not really sure if it maintains 60 FPS when you get more than 2 players at a time. So I don't know. Anyway, it's just stuff I still have to mess around with. I'm probably going to do more stuff with that computer over the weekend. Try to get some stuff set up and refined a bit. It's more complicated, of course, than a console, but it's also easy. And the fact of the matter is, I did all this without spending any extra money. Okay, actually, that's not entirely true. I did spend $9 to get a Bluetooth adapter for that computer, but that was the only thing I bought. Everything else I already had, so it was just using parts I had and cables and everything else. And yeah, I mean, it's gonna work out well once I get it properly set up. I just haven't gotten it properly set up all the way yet. But I did also, with that as kind of a side thing, because obviously this isn't something I played yet, but I decided to use my credit on Green Man Gaming to go towards getting the new Sonic Racing game that's coming out in a couple weeks. Because for one, it looks great. Two, from the testing people have done so far with like the early access version, or not early access, but like, I don't know if it was a beta or if it was just a play test, whatever it was, it runs well on the Steam Deck. The system requirements are low, so it should easily run just fine on the living room PC. And then as part of the season pass, I mean, not only are they going to have a bunch of characters added, but they're going to have Minecraft characters and Minecraft courses added, which of course my kids will absolutely love. So to me, it was worth it. And considering how much I enjoyed All Stars Racing Transformed, and this one really seems to be very much the same kind of thing, I'm looking forward to it. And something that I also saw in the trailer recently is that Joker from Persona 5 is in there. And I have a feeling there may end up being other Persona characters and stuff. And it's just like, I love what they're doing. They have great single player, great multiplayer. To me, this is everything I wish Mario Kart was. Even though, of course, I'm getting more and more annoyed with Nintendo, especially after the story that I just sent you about what they're doing with Palworld again. But we'll get to that, obviously, later. I feel like there was something else. But yeah, no, it was probably mostly just doing stuff with that computer. That's been the big thing, apart from some gaming. So yeah, that's everything.
Nice. And I like the setup that you had. Definitely looks like you set up everything pretty well. One question I sort of had regarding that is, do you think if there are games that say, you and your kids want to play in the living room and the computer might not be capable enough for it, do you think there might be a situation where you say stream from your main PC to that one, or do you think you
potentially I think in that situation I'd probably just connect a laptop instead. Be a bit easier. Right now, I mean, like, I have it set so that the only games that are shown in the library for them are just the ones that are approved for them to play. And I don't think any of those games are resource intensive. I mean, like, Ratchet and Clank is probably the most resource intensive of those, and even that, I mean, I think the minimum requirement is like a GTX 960. So it's, and like I said, when I started it up, it was running well. I think it was running at 60. It seemed like it was running quite well. I mean, I don't know when it gets to like those fast transition scenes that require an SSD. I don't know how it will do. I don't think it's going to do as well as it would if it had an NVMe in there. but for now it doesn't have one because, I mean, it just has a regular SATA SSD. Because that's what I already had in the system. At some point, I'll probably grab an NVMe for it, especially because that board does have at least one, maybe two NVMe slots on it. So I could pretty easily, add some additional storage whenever I want to. It's just whether it's a need or not, it's a different story. But yeah.
And if you do happen to figure out a way to get split screen working in Minecraft, let me know, because I started looking into it, but I haven't done too much with it yet so far, and I'll talk about this later on in the gameplay stuff for me. But I know my niece and nephew, they went to get into Minecraft, and as they started, I knew I would want to get split screen set up. I know it's something that isn't natively, or at least out of the box, supported on PC, so I've been trying to look into that. So if you happen to have that successfully set up, just let me know what you did.
Yeah, the only thing I found so far is you can do splits. There's a mod you can do for the Java version to do split screen, but you need additional mods in order to be able to use controllers natively because they're not natively supported in the Java edition, whereas in the Bedrock edition, they are natively supported, but I haven't found anything yet to be able to do the split screen that way. So I don't know. I feel like we probably have talked about this before, but it didn't quite stick in my brain until I was actually trying to do it. I mean, looking into it myself. So, yeah. But anyway, what have you been playing this week?
Alright, so everything that I've been playing has pretty much been with my niece and nephew. I'll knock these two out of the way just because we really didn't do too much with them. First one was Stardew Valley. We played a couple days worth in the game, but after a while, or a short while, my niece and nephew went to play something else. We also played some Cuphead. They chose that. I was like, you sure you want to get into this? And they just selected it, and it went about as expected. And I tried setting the bosses to simple mode because it was going to be the easiest thing to do. There would be fewer phases, and eventually, they were both playing by themselves at first, and if one of them had difficulties, they would just hand me the controller, and I would try to help them out there. And at one point, I said, maybe I should let you two get through the tutorial just so you can understand the controls. And, they were sort of getting through that, but the biggest problem was once it got to the parrying parts, and then I was like, yeah, that's going to be the difficulty thing, is trying to get them to learn how to parry. And I mean, my nephew, he started to get a grasp on it, and he was starting to do the 3 parry jump across, but my niece, she couldn't get it at all. And she got a bit frustrated with that, and I was just like, that's fine. We don't really need to worry about that right now. And they still kept trying to get through some stuff, and they went through one of the run and gun stages, and the biggest issue they had was they were just shooting everything, but they didn't understand the fact that enemies just keep respawning and they need to keep moving. And so my nephew sort of understood that once I sort of said, hey, you should probably keep going to the right. And the problem with that kind of was you won't be able to see everything that's coming because one player will be behind, and so enemies keep running into him, and my niece is just still standing there. And so they both got frustrated after a while, so we stopped playing that. But it was interesting seeing them start that off. But one of the things we played the most, we were playing most of, was Lego Marvel Superheroes, and then I also sort of into that mix Lego Incredibles. We played a good portion of the levels in the games, and I mean, we pretty much went further than I thought we were going to go. And my nephew, he really, I think, has started to get a grasp on controls, at least with at least with the Lego games, I'll say, is that he's starting to understand about making progression. When he sees prompts on the screen to press a button, he'll know, oh, I should press this button in particular to do like this action. So he's doing better with that and understanding, what's happening on the screen and knowing what he should be doing. There were a few times where things got a little complicated because unfortunately he had my DualSense controller, and so while he was seeing like PlayStation prompts on the screen, it was it confused him a bit. So I had to tell him, oh, I'm no, you just hit square, or you hit circle, or you hit X instead of hitting A or B, and like that. But other than that, though, he was doing pretty well in that. So he enjoyed that, and I mean, he was a bit. He didn't want to stop when it was time for dinner because he was like, oh, can't we just play a little bit more? Because he was just enjoying himself there on that end, but that was good. But then, sort of like as we were mentioning earlier, I played Minecraft because I knew they were going to want that. And unfortunately, like I said, I didn't have split screen steps, so they had to essentially just take turns using the controller. And initially, I set them up on just peaceful difficulty because I knew, when you have the creepers and the zombies show up, it's going to make things a bit more difficult, especially for them. And also with having hunger resources management, that was going to be something they weren't accustomed to. But because after the first few nights, they didn't see any type of monsters, they said, where are they at? We're supposed to be seeing creepers. And I said, well, they don't really show up on this difficulty. I could turn it up, but do you want that to happen? They said, yeah, do that. And so after that, it was the first night. It was just drastic. They were handing me the controller saying, do something, because there were just creepers. And I mean, honestly, when I was playing the game by myself initially, I did not encounter as many creepers as I did with them, and it was on the same normal difficulty. And so I mean, we didn't do too much in the game, but we pretty much, I was just trying to help them build up a house and make sure they could at least be safe during the nights. That was pretty much the extent of how things went there. However, when I was recording footage for this week, I was trying to do a little bit of exploration and go to one of the caves that I had seen before that I hadn't done much of. And it's just been horrible. So I feel like whatever happens on Saturday has transferred over to my PC because I've encountered more creepers now than I have before, and I've died 3 times. And unfortunately, 2 of those deaths were because I was trying to reclaim all the items I had dropped. And I got very frustrated because of the fact that there were items that were just really hard for me to get back. Just because I had finally found some iron, so I had made some iron bars. I had made actually some iron armor, and I was, I thought, all right, that's fine. I'll have some defense. That'll be great. But because I died and lost all that, I was like, all right, cool. I'll go and get it. But I died again, and by the time I was able to get back to where I was before, all my items were gone, and man. I was just so ticked off that I was about to rage quit, but I said I have to go back and at least get something that I had dropped before. So eventually I was able to make it back, and still I just ended up dying to something else. It's always the skeletons. The archer skeletons have just been the worst.
Yeah.
And I just, I've been sniped so many times by those things that I even trying to just lure them outside just because I want to get into some sunlight. But it's just been nasty. So eventually I just ended up getting whatever items I had before and just calling it a day because I was not making any more progress besides that. But that is the extent of Minecraft for me. And actually, that being said, that is everything that I've played this past week.
All right. Yeah, it kind of sounds like the typical Dark Souls experience. It's like,
Yeah,
yeah.
I feel like in this case scenario, I probably was slightly more irritated just because of the fact that even if I lose souls,
Right.
my souls, it'll take me a while, but I can still farm. I can still
Mm-hmm.
farm them.
Yeah.
Whereas with limited resources, if
Mm-hmm.
I lose them, I'm just gonna be really mad.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely that type of experience of rage that you get.
Definitely. Yeah, well, it's not really my kind of game. My kids, they pretty much only play creative. Like, I think they've tried survival a couple times, but they pretty much just play creative and they'll summon creepers and withers and all sorts of stuff like that. And, um, just make wither tornadoes as they like to do. And I don't know. Anyway, no, wither storms. Wither storms is what they like to make. But anyway, uh, so yeah. Cool, cool. Now, as for what I've been playing this week, there's definitely a much shorter list this time around. I'll mention first of all, so I can't remember if it was last week or the week before. We had talked about, I had tried to boot up Elder Scrolls Arena uh, using the offline launcher, and it was just more complicated than I wanted it to be. I couldn't get it to boot up, but then you mentioned trying to run it through GOG Galaxy, and so I did. And it booted up immediately without any problems. Um, so the downside is that the controls do not feel natural at all, and I haven't. And of course, there's no sort of like tutorials or anything. So if you don't know what you're doing, then it's kind of tricky. And you can modify the controls in DOSBox because it runs through DOSBox, but I didn't do that because it was basically, I was just kind of testing it out and I didn't really feel like messing with it. I do think at some point I do want to mess with it because I think it might just be interesting as more of a time capsule than anything else to try out the game and, see how it functions. Because I mean, the earliest Elder Scrolls game I played before this was Oblivion. Um, like I have all of them. Um, at least all the mainline ones, and then a couple of like smaller side ones that I got either for free or like as part of a cheap bundle on Fanatical. Um, but yeah, so yeah, I didn't really do much of anything with this. I couldn't figure out how to attack, and so when I came across some goblins, I just died. Um, and yeah, it seems like if I could modify the controls to make them feel natural, then I could probably at least kind of get into it. I know it's definitely more difficult because it's not as it doesn't have the quality of life improvements of the later games, but I think it's still could be kind of fun to mess with it. So maybe at some point I'll mess around with it. If I can at least get the controls fixed, I think it'll be more worthwhile to give it a try. But yeah. Um, but what I ended up doing instead, so of course I was wanting to test out that controller that I got to review, and I thought at the time, I mentioned last week that I was pretty sure it was supposed to have gyro available so that I could check out the gyro aiming. It turns out I was wrong about that. I actually mixed it up. It was the PS4 controller that they also make that has gyro built in. The Xbox controller does not, which actually makes more sense because on Xbox, the Xbox controller, the regular one doesn't have gyro in it either, whereas the PlayStation ones do. So I booted up Horizon Forbidden West because I wanted to test out the gyro, and of course it doesn't work, so I did not end up actually being able to utilize that, but I still played for a bit with it and tested it, using the the back buttons for different things, and it worked well, apart from the fact that it doesn't have any sort of gyro. And I think this may be the first time that I've actually played Horizon Forbidden West since I upgraded my PC. Um, so it doesn't run the best, um, but in terms, I mean, like when I say it doesn't run the best, I have the visuals pretty close to maximum at 1440p, and it looks really really good. Like you'll see the footage here, which may or may not end up being more compressed in the final version. Unfortunately, I found out last week I was trying to render the video footage, or render the podcast last week at a higher resolution so that you could see that with Doom Eternal, and it didn't look anywhere near how it looked in the original video. Um, so it'll probably end up being the same thing with this, where it doesn't look as good as it does in the actual recording. But yeah, it looks really really good, but the frame rate kind of it varies quite a lot. On the high end, it can get up to 100 FPS, but it can easily drop into the low 50s at times. And I can't remember if it ever drops any lower than that. But yeah, I'm not particularly happy with that part. I did of course turn off frame generation, but it doesn't run as well as I would like. Granted, that was with me not doing anything to mess around with the settings, because I really just wanted to test out the controller on it, and so it worked well from that standpoint. Just performance is not as great as it could be. Like I would definitely rather see at least above 60 consistently. And while it was above 60 probably more often than not, it also dropped into the 50s quite a bit. I mean, the game still felt good, but the ideal wanting to make it run as well as possible, it'd be nice to be above 60 at all times. And that's just not always realistic when you have a bunch of like different visual effects going on around you, and massive draw distance and all this other stuff. And so yeah, but at least it looks good, and it does run well overall, just not as well as I would like it to. But yeah, I only played for like maybe 30 minutes, really just testing stuff out from that standpoint. But then I ended up, playing, of course, some more Persona 3 Reload, specifically the episode Aegis DLC. I didn't do a ton with it. Probably put in maybe 2-3 more hours, something along those lines. Didn't move the needle a whole lot on it. Largely because, like, the only reason that I was initially even... Well, let me back up. I was playing it for a bit, but then I was just kind of in the mood to test out another game that I believe I hadn't played since before I upgraded my PC. And if I had, I just couldn't remember that I had. And so I ended up just... I just didn't play. I didn't play a lot of episode I guess. I need to jump back in and spend more time on it, because I do want to get through it. But I just kind of been getting back into one of the other games that I've been working on little by little, and that is Assassin's Creed Odyssey. So something that I didn't realize, because I guess I just hadn't really thought much about it, is that the port of this game on PC, it's just really poorly optimized. I mean, it still runs fine for me. Like, I'd say I don't ever drop... Well, I almost never drop below 60 FPS. And that's basically with all the settings maxed out at 1440p. But the weird thing is that, like, the GPU utilization is really terrible. When I go into the settings, like it'll show what the percentage of my, how much of my VRAM I'm actually using. And even though it's like, I think I'm hitting around the maximum of maybe 4.5 gigs of VRAM, with all those settings maxed out, the frame rate is still all over the place. Like, it is not consistent at all. And from everything I've been looking into it more today, especially because I was just wondering about that, what's going on with this, because it doesn't make sense, because it's like I have a very low percentage of my actual VRAM being used, and yet I'm not getting a consistent high frame rate like I should be. I mean, like, if it doesn't make sense that it's just not utilizing the VRAM that I have, because I have 12 gigs of VRAM and it's using around 4 to 5, but I can't even tell if it's actually using that, because or at least that's how much it's supposed to use, but then it's not. I mean, I don't know. It's just not running as well as it should. And my CPU is a very, very good CPU. It's, one of the highest end CPUs you can have, if not the highest end that's currently available. So I don't really understand it from that standpoint. But either way, that's not really all that important. It still runs well enough to where I'm not, like, disappointed with it. I just kind of wish that it actually used the VRAM properly, because then it would probably get consistently above 100 FPS instead of being, like, typically from the high 60s to the low 90s is pretty typical. And it's not as though that's bad, but it just, like I said, it's just not optimized the way it should be. It's not even that I'm getting a bad frame rate. It's just the fact that I'm using so little VRAM, and it seems like I should be using a lot more VRAM so that I could actually get better frame rates. But I digress. So playing this game, I'd been talking for a while about wanting to finish it up, and I've been going back and forth on what that actually meant. What would make me satisfied to feel like I actually finished the game. And after a bit, I was starting to think, okay, well, first of all, I just want to complete all the areas, make sure every single incomplete like fortress or whatever is checked off, that it's complete. Fortress, house, the chests are collected, so on and so forth. And then as I was playing, I kind of settled on, I wanted to also try doing the quests, because there's a handful of quests. The majority of the one I've done all of the required quests already. I've done all the story quests, but there's a handful of side quests that are optional. But they're also there's different kinds of quests. There's some quests that are just randomly generated, that they'll, there's just an infinite number of them. The silver quests are all randomly generated, but there's an infinite number, and you can do them endlessly if you want to. Then there's the gold and blue quests that are not randomly generated, that they're specific quests, and once you complete them, they're done. They're gone. And so, to feel more like I've completed the checklist to my satisfaction, I decided, okay, I'm going to do all these. So I'm working towards that while also, doing the other stuff. As I'm doing that, I decide to go ahead and just take a look at, okay, what achievements are there? Because I wasn't planning on going for all the achievements, but I was just curious. And I looked at the achievements, and most of them are nothing overly complicated. A lot of times it's just like, okay, finish this quest line. There's a couple of, like, random ones that have specific objectives tied to them. Like, for example, there's one where you have to cleave a ship in two while having an entirely female crew, which is basically you just get the ship to the point where you would be able to board it, like in Black Flag and everything, and then you ram the ship, and that'll cleave it in two. So it's like things like that, and then completing certain quest lines, and there's like a couple of optional bosses that I had missed that needed to go after. And the big one is, of course, completing the whole map. Like, what exactly that consists of, I'm still trying to figure out because I haven't quite done it, even though I don't have any areas on the map that are still fogged over. I'm not sure if this means you have to complete every single, like, um, location, complete all the objectives in every location, or if there's, like, you have to find every single landmark, or, what exactly it all goes together. So I need to look it up. But the point I'm trying to make is I decided I'm going for all the achievements. Because of the fact that none of the ones that are left are complicated or grindy. Basically, all of them are just like complete this quest line, complete the map, which is stuff I kind of wanted to do anyway. And then, since I can do a lot of multitasking on that front, I decided I'm going for it. And I have like, I think 12 achievements left, but pretty much all of them are, like I said, those fairly simple ones. Some of them are small things like finding a specific item that's related to an earlier story mission that was... I mean, I won't get into it, but yeah. So I'm just slowly working on that. I just decided that is what will make me feel like I've actually finished the game. And I originally wasn't planning on doing that, but because of the fact that none of these are unreasonable to get that I have left, I figure I might as well just do it. And then when I've actually done that, then I will finally feel like, okay, I've legitimately finished the game. I actually, got my money's worth. And I think the other reason why I feel this way is because of the fact that, like, the last time I checked, I was at 155 hours in the game. And it's like, with as much time as I put into this, if I'm this close to having all the achievements, I may as well just go for it, complete it to where I can actually be satisfied with my completion level and not feel like I left anything unfinished, or like I'm just gonna be walking away and feeling like, oh, I haven't actually finished the game. So yeah. Anyway, that's a very lengthy talk about that, but yeah, that's where I am with everything. That's the last thing I've been playing. And I guess I should also mention I played that a bit on Steam Deck as well, because I still have it installed there, and it's been kind of 50-50. I was playing mostly on my desktop for a bit there, and then I decided to go back to the Steam Deck a bit, just because of the fact that way I can sit with my wife when we're like listening to something or whatever at night, instead of sitting at the computer. So yeah, that's it.
Okay. I guess while we're on the topic of Assassin's Creed, so I take it then with a lot of these side quests or stuff like that, there's nothing where you have to really go and say find all these, say, notes, or find, all
Not as far
these
as I
like
can tell.
okay.
I think just about everything left is related to just like a sequence of missions.
Okay. That's cool. So yeah, so I mean, I guess offhand, I mean, based on what you know, to make things easier on you, is there any sort of way you could sort of streamline slash tackle multiple objectives at the same time? Like, say, if they say like there's a quest line in one area or another, is there like anywhere where you could say like, oh, while I'm here, I'll just tackle these two objectives at the same time and move on, or like also complete this area as well? Or do you feel like it's something where you'll have to just complete a storyline, finish that, and then move on to the next thing, complete that, or and then maybe also try to like complete maps and areas, stuff like that as well?
So I would say in general, yes, that can work. I've done a lot of that already, and right now, like, I'm at the point with clearing out the map that I'm just hunting, trying to figure out what I haven't done, because there's like as far as I can tell, I have everything checked off. But one thing that I did realize when I was playing a bit earlier this evening, is that there are some locations that when you view them from the map, they don't show that there's any objectives tied to that location. But then when if you actually go to the location, then the objectives show up, and then after that, then the objectives show on the map. So I think that there's a handful of locations that might still need to be done like that. Um, but really, what I need to do is I need to first look and see what exactly are the requirements for this, because if there are still objectives that I'm missing from those locations, like, I can see that there's a handful of places that I would still need to do, and I'm perfectly happy to do them because there's really not that many left. I mean, it's a very small number. Like, I filtered out the maps so that it wouldn't display any of the locations that are already completed. And I mean, there's probably, I would say, maybe 10 to 20 locations left, but those are all like towns where the objectives are minimal. Like, you don't have to defeat any bosses or anything. It's basically just, oh, I need to, find a chest, or find a chest or two, and then um, burn like a pile of supplies in most of those locations. And since of course there's fast travel, so I can very easily get to those locations. Um, but yeah, I'm hoping that that's what it is that I'm missing, because like, I'm looking at the map and I don't see any area that I haven't been to yet. And so I want to get this one, because with all the time I put into it, and the fact that I've, been very intentional of trying to get every single location completed, it just seems like, I mean, I guess I want to get that part done, because that's definitely the biggest of all the achievements in the game, like the one that takes the longest. And um I really don't think there's much left. So yeah.
Going back to Elder Scrolls Arena, so I guess the one of the questions I was gonna have, since you mentioned it, was regarding the controls. Is it
Mhm.
just the keybinds, or is it like the movements that's weird?
It's the keybinds, um and just not really like having, since there's no like sort of tutorial or anything. It's very much if you don't know how to control it, then you kind of just have to figure it out. um some of it is definitely, I mean, I'm sure that with the original release, it probably had a manual and everything that you could look at. um I don't know that the GOG version has a manual. Even if it does, I don't really like having to work with a manual to figure all that stuff out. And from what I was looking at for like attacking and stuff after I got killed, I can't remember exactly what it was you had to do, but it was something that was just weird. Like, it wasn't something that was obvious, something that you would think naturally with the way we play games nowadays. So I'm probably just gonna have to. Well, I'm definitely planning to try to customize the controls. What I kind of want to do is I almost want to just try mainlining this and Daggerfall, and then jumping into Morrowind and stuff like that, just for the sake of actually like trying out these really old Elder Scrolls games and being able to really appreciate the improvements from game to game.
Yeah. And I guess sort of, well, it's not really a follow up, but a question still on that game is what is the basic performance like?
I didn't check the frame rate or anything, but I mean, it was running smoothly. I think it's probably like capped at a lower frame rate, but like I said, I didn't even turn on anything to check the performance. And actually, I'm not even sure. I would imagine Galaxy probably has a way to do that. I just honestly, I wasn't even thinking about it, because I was really just trying to see and just kind of messing around with it a little bit.
No, that's definitely fine. And I mainly just wanted to know out of curiosity because I initially tried playing Elder Scrolls Arena some years ago, and I think that was probably roughly around. I don't remember if this was when Microsoft bought Bethesda, but it was sometime around that point, I think, when Bethesda actually put out, or they put out the games for free for
Mm-hmm.
Arena and Daggerfall out, and I said,
Right.
oh, it's free, so I'll just go ahead and download the games. And so I set up DOSBox, and when I booted it up, it was just running. It feels like it was running probably around 15 to 20 frames per second, and I was just like, yeah, this isn't turning out well. So I stopped at that point. And I really feel like it was just the way I had things set up. So I was just curious to know how it was running once GLG Galaxy took care of everything that needed to be done. I just want to know,
Yeah,
like,
I
it's
honestly
at
have
least
no
being
idea.
decent.
It could very well be 15 frames per second, but because the movement was so slow, it wasn't noticeable. Um, yeah, it would not surprise me if it's running something low like that.
Okay, fair enough. Oh, and then I was really curious about the controller that you tried out. So actually, also, I guess one question is, was it just or at least this past week? I know you played, so you messed around with it the previous week. But as far as with this past week, was it just in Horizon Forbidden West that you tried the controller out?
No, actually, I've been using it exclusively in the games I've been playing on PC. So, something I forgot to mention is that um on what you call it, Assassin's Creed, I actually set up a macro on there because there's one of the things that you like a button combo that you press in order to well, you can customize what your different shortcuts are for like specials and that sort of thing. And because of the fact that I always need to heal, or at least have to heal every so often, um, I have it. I have the heal macro mapped to the same button that I have it mapped to for healing on Dark Souls and everything else. Um, so it was very easy to set up the macro. You just hold down the turbo button and the button that you want to assign a macro to, and then once it stops or once it starts like flashing or whatever, then you press whatever the macro is that you want to press, and then you press the back button again, and then it assigns that function to it. So it's easier to do that, much easier to do that than it is to set up macros on the Steam Deck. Just because of the fact that Steam Deck, you have to like set, okay, it presses this button and then the sub button that it presses, and sometimes the timing can be difficult to get just right. Like it works easily for some games where it's literally just pressing both at the same time, but like I tried doing it with Sifu to do one of like the leg sweep attack, and I couldn't get the timing quite right. So whenever I eventually go back to Sifu, I definitely want to see if I can set the macro for things like that, and some of the other combos where I'm not good at executing it normally, just for the sake of being able to be like, oh, I can just press this button and then execute that combo very easily.
Okay. And then just out of curiosity, at least if you know offhand, um, are the is there like, I mean, of course, the gyro support, obviously, but between the Xbox and PlayStation version, is there sort of like a similar form factor and the buttons are just different, or is one shaped like an Xbox controller and one shaped like a DualSense type of controller?
Yeah, they're shaped like their counterparts. So Xbox
Okay.
One is shaped like the Xbox, and uh, the PlayStation One is shaped like the PlayStation controller.
Okay. Okay, that's good to know. All right. Cool. All right. That's all I have.
Good stuff. Yeah, I'm hoping to get a review done for the controller soon-ish. I'm double checking with the people that asked me to do the review whether they need me to have the text and video version out at the same time, because they wanted me to review it on Amazon, and then also do the video review. And so I just need to double check. Do they need me to have both out at the same time? Because if they do, it's going to take a little bit longer. If I can do the text one first on Amazon, then I'll do that first, and then I can just add the video to that after it's done. Because, yeah, the text one will take a lot less time, obviously, to put together. So, yeah. But I've been really liking the controller. And at least until there's a new Steam controller, it's probably going to be my exclusive main PC controller. Because of the back buttons and because it just works really well. So, yeah. Or, well, I should say, it will be my exclusive controller, except in probably, like, Horizon Forbidden West. And if I were to go back to, like, Ghost of Tsushima, anything where I would want to use gyro for aiming. So, then I would probably be using the PlayStation controller, or, depending on the game, mouse and keyboard. But, yeah. Alright. Well, let's go ahead and get into the news. So, first thing, I think we should just talk about this right away because of the fact that it came up earlier, and I know you're definitely going to have some thoughts. I have some very irritated thoughts about this. So, Nintendo has acquired another patent for their anti-Palworld stuff. So this, let me just read the article from Insider Gaming. Nintendo's recently acquired a new patent for summoning a character and letting it fight another. And so, let's see here. This new patent, they also own a patent that has related to smooth switching or riding objects. And so okay, so let me back up. So the new patents that they got, one is for smooth switching or riding objects, and then a week ago they were also granted a patent which is related to summoning characters and allowing them to engage in combat against one another. And okay, let me bring up some more stuff here. So let's see here. Alright, so Nintendo's new patent comprises 6 claims. The first one states that there should be a PC, console, or any other computing device for the game to run on. Secondly, players should be able to move a character in a virtual space. The subsequent claim that states that the first character should be able to summon a sub-character similar to how Pokemon are summoned. The fourth claim talks about summoning this sub-character in a space where there is another character, and they are instructed to fight. The fifth claim describes a different scenario in which the player can summon a sub-character in a space with no enemy characters to fight. The final claim talks about an automatic battle being triggered when the sub-character walks in the direction of another character. Now, I have all sorts of thoughts about this, and none of them are positive, but as our resident Palworld player, what are your thoughts?
No. This is just... Nintendo just does not seem to be able to get any lower during this lawsuit, and yet they continue to surpass, or I guess delve deeper than my expectations, because this is something that, just the way this was described, or at least not even some of these, not even necessarily as far as mounting, but just the mechanics themselves, seems like they could be applied to so many games that exist. For example, the idea of being able to summon a sub-character in battle makes me think of any type of game that has summoning, or say, for example, like say Persona, for example, like you're gonna summon your Persona. Oh, Atlas better watch out. Nintendo's gonna sue them. Oh, did you just summon your persona in the middle of battle? Uh-oh, that's infringing upon Nintendo's patents. And something that happened recently, which I is just hilarious to think about, and I wonder, what's gonna happen is the fact that regarding the mounting mechanics, especially how Nintendo continues to insist that it's their patent design. Digimon, Bandai Namco released a new trailer for Digimon. I can't remember what the full title of the game is, but essentially, in the trailer, you see the characters riding Digimons and flying them throughout the overworld. Something that Palworld allegedly isn't supposed to be doing. Does that mean that Nintendo's gonna be suing Bandai Namco? I highly doubt it. It's really just because I really just believe it's because of the fact that Palworld got so popular that Nintendo just couldn't handle it, because it's like, oh, here's a Pokemon clone that's doing something that people actually like, and we're not making money off of it. Well, we're gonna sue you. So it's like, why aren't you suing Bandai Namco for using a similar mechanic? Which also, I think, being able to ride a mount is just such a basic thing that it's just ridiculous to think. I mean, it's on the lines of just insanity, similar to how I'm pretty certain it was, actually I think it was Bandai Namco who did years ago, who patented mini games during loading screens. Which, I mean, if you played like the Dragon Ball Z Budokai games, like they had small little mini games you could play while the game's loading in, and those were fun. Those were neat to do, especially, I mean, your fingers might get a little numb in between battles because you're like tapping the button or trying to like jiggle the joystick around fast enough, but those were pretty neat. But unfortunately, Bandai patented that, and so no one could do that for a minigame. But also, I mean, I think other things is like oh gosh, Warner Brother games, they patented the Nemesis system, so like no other company can use the Nemesis system, and they haven't done anything with it. They've just been sitting on that patent, and it doesn't expire for another like 5 to 7 years or so. And so like no one can do that because they patented that system. I mean, they said they were going to do something with it in the Wonder Woman game, but that's been canceled. So, I mean, any other game company could have used this whole thing, but they decided to patent it. And I mean, also, I think it was the dialogue wheel that EA patented. And so, like, I mean, sure, they've been using that in their BioWare games, but the fact that something that neat and decent can't be used by any other company or studio because they patented it was ridiculous. And here, I mean, honestly, this might be worse because this is like a basic thing. Like, who wouldn't want to ride a mount? Like, having your creature that you just ride around. Like, hey, it makes things cool. It's neat. It makes traversal easier on some hands. Sometimes it's just cool. We can't do it because you think it's a problem. and I mean, at first when Nintendo had the lawsuit with that, and I was like, well, I'll see what happens. But then they had to actually change full-on animations and abilities that PALs had, because there were a couple PALs where, oh, you can't be using it to glide. So now instead of you actually using a PAL to glide, now it just boosts your stamina or abilities when you're using an actual glider, which I'm like, yeah, but now it actually requires me to have a glider instead of just using the PAL itself to glide, which means I have to actually organize everything specifically for this scenario. So I just think this whole thing is just ridiculous. And I mean, I obviously have not been a fan of this since day one, and it just continues to get worse. But now the fact that these things are just happening more and more, including, like I said, basic stuff that happens during RPG battles. Like, you're literally describing what happens in any type of RPG, especially turn-based ones in particular. So I mean, like, what happens next? in Final Fantasy, because you summoned you summoned like a you summoned something, like Gaia, or if you summoned um you know oh gosh, like anything else, then all of a sudden, oh, you're infringing upon Nintendo's past. I mean, this summons have been a thing in Final Fantasy since the NES. Okay. So how is this even a thing? And the thing that baffles me, and let me actually just confirm that this is true. Okay, so I mean, technically it's new. I don't know if this has been approved yet or not. I just see that they've filed for these new patents. But I'm really hoping that Japan isn't, or actually I do see that this is a US patent, so this would be different. So I mean, I really hope that the US patent system looks at this and realizes, you know what, this is a stupid patent that they're trying to make, because again, summoning sub characters in the middle of battle is a very basic thing. And I mean, at what point do these patent offices not realize, I mean, granted, they're not, gamers, or, they're not from that sort of background, but at what point do other companies that are competing or working alongside Nintendo say, hey, you're really going to hurt like the things that I've done? Or I mean, granted, I wonder if, some other companies that could just say, hey, you can't patent this thing because I've already done this so many times in the past, or like, my game literally has this ability that you're saying that it's using. And I mean, I can't even remember also if just to show how ridiculous this current patent is, or what Nintendo is like, I can't remember if the new Digimon game is even coming to the Switch or Switch 2.
Oh, I'm pretty
because
sure
if it is, then how is Nintendo allowing this? Because they have to know that this is happening in the game. But clearly they just don't care, because this really is just about bullying Pocket Pair. But yeah, so all in all, this is ridiculous. And I think, honestly, patenting how characters act within battles for basic things is probably the lowest patent. And I mean, I think the mounting patents were low enough as it was, but I think this is possibly even worse, because this is just trying to claim the entire turn-based RPG sector. So yeah, this is just like, this is just like a new low for Nintendo, and I'm not thrilled. But yeah, that's essentially everything I have before trying to circle back and repeat myself.
All right. Well, yeah, this is Nintendo's new low. This is insane. These things that they're trying to patent. I mean, the mount thing. Literally getting on a horse, that's a mount. Getting in a car, on a motorcycle, in a plane, all those things could be considered mounts. Nintendo's not going to enforce this with anyone but Palworld. This is literally, like you said, it's them trying to bully Pocket Pair. That's all this is. It is nothing but bullying. And it is insane that they are trying to do this, and the fact that they were granted these patents. Now, like you said, obviously the people at the patent office aren't exactly, literate when it comes to games, and they have no idea that this is stuff that's literally existed in games since the 80s. I mean, just about everything here. The summon thing, like you said, Persona, Shin Megami Tensei, Digimon, all sorts of different Pokemon clones over the years that haven't been nearly as successful. The only reason they're doing this now is because of the fact that they want to keep Pocket Pair. They're basically just trying to take all of Pocket Pair's money that they've gained from all the sales they've had for Palworld. I hope that somehow someone can help Pocket Pair fight this nonsense, because it is stupid. And I want to swear at what this is. This is incredible. It's just nonsense, and it's so dumb. It's like, I can't even express how stupid this is. These mechanics are used in so many different games and have been for decades, long before Pokemon even existed. And they're trying to do this just so that they can bully Pocket Pair, so that they can get them to either basically completely throw out their game that they put so much time and effort into, or just try to keep them from ever making any games again. Nintendo has never gone after these other companies that have done the same things, that have made Pokemon clones that are way more like Pokemon than Palworld. Palworld is so much further removed from what Pokemon is than so many of the other games that are out there. And the only reason they're going after Pocket Pair is because this game has been successful. All those other clones that were not successful, they never did anything with. They're just kind of like, meh, whatever. With the exception of maybe some games that actually like literally used Pokemon in them. But I mean, like you said, the mount. I mean, you literally can just look at riding a horse. That's a mount. I mean, what are they going to sue Rockstar? Because Rockstar has horses, and they have cars you can drive, and motorcycles you can ride, and everything else. It's like, that Nintendo is not going to touch any of these companies that are quote-unquote infringing their patents, because it's stupid, it's nonsense, it is extremely scummy. And I'm not even someone who's ever played Palworld. I wasn't that interested in doing it. I've been kind of like, I might try it out sometime, but it wasn't super interesting to me. I almost want to give them my money just for the sake of giving the middle finger to Nintendo. But at the same time, I also have a feeling that's just going to encourage Nintendo to go after them even harder. I really hope somehow Nintendo could get their just desserts on this, because this is insane, and there's no excuse for any of this. No excuse for it whatsoever. Yeah, I'm not going to say anything further, mostly because of the fact that I don't think I'm going to have anything coherent to add. But yeah, it's stupid.
Yeah. Only thing I can think of, hopefully, if they could help. I know that Sony had some sort of partnership with Pocket Pair, so if they could help out, somehow, that would be great. But we would just have to see on that end.
All right. Well, I guess we'll move on and... Ugh. Anyway, yes, let's move on. All right. You want to talk about what happened with Silksong this past week?
Oh, with pleasure. All right. So, believe it or not, but Hollow Knight Silksong released. I know, it's been something that people have speculated and said it would never come out, because it's been at least 6 years since Hollow Knight released, or at least since Silksong was first announced, and it finally released, and not only just as an expansion or DLC, but as its own standalone title. And I think it kind of did well. It did well enough that it caused Steam to crash, and even Nintendo's eShop to crash as well. And that was within seconds of being released, and it's just been insane. Additionally, actually make sure I have the right numbers here. Actually, I can just go ahead and whoops. The numbers for Silksong, at least on Steam, the highest concurrent numbers were okay, why is that not? Oh yeah. Okay, actually no, I am not seeing the highest numbers here. Okay, so I thought the highest numbers were I think like 500,000. Oh no, I'm sorry, yeah. The all-time peak was 587,150 players. And that peak was just 3 days ago. But I mean, as far as within the past 24 hours, it's been 443,000 players. So obviously, people have been interested in this game. And I mean, you know, it's definitely been more of that 2D Metroidvania Souls-likes that you know, people in our circle seem to enjoy. Now, I haven't played the first Hollow Knight yet. That's been in my backlog of games to touch, but it's definitely something that I've been looking forward to eventually playing. I mean, I've definitely heard a lot of good things about the game, and you know, based on what has happened this past week, you know, it seems like Silksong has also been just as good as the first game. But yeah, before I actually get into, I mean, I guess technically some of my thoughts were melded in there, but go ahead and share your thoughts on this experience.
Well, first of all, I do want to mention that it also crashed the PlayStation and Xbox stores as well. They had similar issues. I don't know if it was all at the same time, but you know, people showed screenshots of what was going on after it launched, and it was just all across the board. So, of course, this is great. I mean, we knew that it was going to do well because it had been so highly anticipated by so many people for so long. And of course, that on top of that, there's just a bunch of hype surrounding it, which of course has leaked. I mean, has spread to people all over, even people who weren't interested, wouldn't have necessarily bought it otherwise. But yeah, this is great, and of course, I can't remember if we mentioned previously that it was only $20. So, you know, even though they have put a bunch of time into this, I think they announced it back in 2019, and you know, it took about 6 years for it to come out. It's a team of 3 people, and they've been working hard on it, and everyone has said that it runs incredibly well. It's uncapped frame rate. I mean, you know, it does 120 FPS on the Switch too, and I'm pretty sure on the same thing on both Xbox and PS5. I mean, I haven't played it yet because I want to play the first Hollow Knight before I play Silksong, but I did go ahead and grab it because I wanted to send a message. You know, it's supporting this game, sending a message to the gaming industry as a whole that, you know, if you sell your game for a good price, especially when we know it's a quality product, we'll buy it. I mean, it's actually, there was even, I can't remember exactly the source of it, but people who normally pirate games have said, don't pirate this game, just go buy it. And, you know, they're like refusing to pirate the game. They want to actually just go ahead and buy it, support it, because it's a good price, and, you know, there's no BS involved with it. It's just, you know, they made a quality game, and they're not charging a ridiculous amount of money. And I think that's wonderful. So yeah, I went ahead and grabbed a copy, even though I won't play it for a bit. I grabbed it on GOG along with the soundtrack because I knew that I would want to have the soundtrack with it. And yeah, I just think this is fantastic.
Yeah, I am in full agreement there that it definitely is sold well, and I mean, people have went to this game, and now that's here, they all jumped on it at the same time. And I agree that pricing at $20 is a good thing, and in an age where we're told that the prices have to go up to reflect, the quality of the game, especially as Ubisoft described it as quadruple A
Yeah.
experiences. It justifies the price tags. We have games like Silksong releasing at $20, and even games that have that sort of triple A experience but are less than $60 at $50, like Clear Obscure Expedition 33, $50, a high quality game at that. And I still bought that, early on. You bought that early on. These are games that prove that you don't need to have $10 quadrillion budgets. You don't need to have quintuple A graphics to have a game be, reasonably priced. It shows that the quality is in the gameplay itself and not necessarily in how it looks. So I agree that this is definitely reasonably priced and you're getting a good experience. It's, a game made by 3 people. So, it's a nice small team that just decided to put time and effort into this. And, and I've heard people say that, this sets a bad precedent because, it gives an expectation that indie games should be, like $20 and stuff like that. But I disagree. I disagree completely. And they say that, and they also said that because of the success of the first Hollow Knight, that, Silksong's able to ride on that success, but no one knew what Hollow Knight was before when it first released. But because of the quality and people enjoyed it, they went ahead and bought it, and more people bought it, and there was that whole hype behind it because it was just a good game. So there's nothing really stopping any developer of putting out a game and having people just enjoy it. I mean, sort of again, going to Expedition 33, sure, the game, people had seen trailers and stuff, and they're like, oh, sort of like a Souls-like aesthetic JRPG. Oh, that seems interesting. Maybe we'll check it out upon release. No one heard of these devs before. The game came out, huge success. So I mean, it's definitely possible to put a game out there, have it be reasonably priced, and still do well, even if you are not a well-known studio. So I think there's really no excuse there. And I think it's funny how, saying that it's wrong to have expectations of reasonably priced games, but, saying we should raise our expectations as far as like the price goes, which I think is just absurd. As far as like accepting $80 plus to pay for a video game. So no thank you on that end. But, I'm pleased that Silksong is a success. I'm glad that people are enjoying it. I'm glad that they decided that this game happened to crash every store because of how well it was doing. And this is just, I would say, a very positive thing in gaming.
Yeah, another thing I wanted to add, because we hadn't talked about this before, but regarding the price, is that recently former PlayStation CEO Sean Layden was saying, oh, well, we need to raise the price. I mean, prices should be going up every generation because we're not seeing as many sports cars in game development parking lots as we used to back in the PS1 days. Because I can't afford sports cars anymore because the profits are lower because the games cost a lot more money. It's like, that's not my problem.
Yeah.
If you guys can't control your budget, that's your problem, not ours. And yeah. Oh, gotta love it when CEOs are just completely out of touch with reality. Anyway, that's a whole different topic on its own. But yeah, the price was great. The $20 price is great. well deserving. And if more developers did that, if they controlled their budgets better and sold their games for less, they would sell more copies and they would make more money. It's simple as that. But they have these out of control, ridiculous budgets, and then they sell their games for 70, $80 and expect us to, make up for that. It's insane. And then you have like with how poorly games are optimized nowadays, that doesn't help anything either. You have Metal Gear Solid Delta that's running like garbage. From what I've been hearing, Borderlands 4 is running really terribly. And it's an Unreal Engine 5 game, so they haven't even bothered to take the time to properly optimize it, but they're still charging $70 for it, and like the Supreme Edition or whatever it's called is like $140. And some people are still buying it.
Oh.
Which certainly doesn't. It's like you're part of the problem. Very, very much so. But and on the Switch 2, not surprisingly, it is 30 FPS and has drops. So yeah, that's going to be interesting. I know that means it won't run well on the Steam Deck either, but hopefully it at least looks better on the Switch 2 than it will look on the Steam Deck, because I know it's not going to run well on the Steam Deck. I mean, like, Borderlands 3 was fine on the Steam Deck, at least, the little tiny bit that I played, that first hour. But, oof. Though, just kind of a side note, I'm curious, because Borderlands 3 on the Switch was uncapped with the frame rate. I wonder if it would run better on Switch 2, because theoretically it should. And it shouldn't even need a patch to do that. I mean, it's still not going to look great, but, if uncapping the frame rate, if the frame rate is in fact uncapped, which as far as I know it is, then it should run a lot better on the Switch too. I might have to test that out sometime. But anyway.
That's a good point.
Be curious about that. Anyway. All right, moving on. So we have the prices revealed for the Lenovo Legion Go 2. And there's going to be two different models. I have to find the actual names of them here, because I forgot to actually get that. But in short, there's a lower tier model that is $1,100, and the higher tier model is $1,479. And from everything people have been saying who have had a chance to test them out, the handheld is very good. It takes a lot of the improvements makes a lot of the improvements that people said needed to be made from the original. I believe it has an OLED VRR screen. I believe it's still 1080p. I have to double check all the different specs on it, but either way, it is definitely stronger. It's definitely heavier, and it's also a lot more expensive. So, what are your thoughts?
Yeah. This is a yikes from me. I mean, yes, it's definitely powerful. It's definitely probably the most powerful handheld that we have. Most likely more power, possibly even more powerful than our Xbox Ally. Um, but at the same time, I don't want to spend upwards of $1,000 on a handheld. I mean, at that point, you might as well almost just be buying like a gaming laptop if you're trying to get that type of mobile experience for gaming. I mean, sure, it's not the same thing having a laptop versus having a handheld, but at the same time, like if you're spending that much, like you really think about what you're doing there. And sure, like you said, it's an OLED screen. It's also got what from I see here, 144 hertz display. So I mean, yeah, you can play games up to like 144 FPS, and I see that the $1479 model has 32 gigs of RAM and 2 terabytes of storage, but at the same time, that doesn't necessarily justify spending $1,500 on a handheld. Like, that is insane. The fact that that's roughly the same price that the RTX 3090 cost. Like, the price of a full GPU, a high-end GPU, is $1,500 for a handheld. That's just insane to me. And I mean, it I mean, honestly, this really just makes the Xbox uh ROG Ally, just it makes it look so much better. I mean, I know that we were like theorizing, how everyone was theorizing how much it would cost, saying like, oh, if it costs like $1,000, this is an epic fail. And I mean, the most expensive model is only like $900. And here we have a handheld that's costing $1,100 at best and $1,500 at worst.
Mhm.
So that's like a huge yikes from me. And I mean, honestly, I would not spend upwards of $800 on a handheld. And I mean, yeah, I spent what I spent on my OLED, but that was also the limited edition one. If I had,
Mhm.
just bought a basic OLED model, that would have just cost me like what, 600, 650. So like, yeah, I would have spent less. And yeah, so like there's just like no way that these should be as expensive as they are. It's just crazy to me, and I don't see these selling too well. I mean, sure, some people might go ahead and buy them because of the fact that they're just that powerful, but I honestly feel like, I mean, the processor similar, um, in an Ally and an Ally X. So unless you really want to have the OLED screen, or if you really want to have that 2 terabytes of storage and 32 gigs of RAM, you're really just better off getting the Xbox Ally.
Mhm.
Um, and even though the feature will come to that device later, you'll already have that Xbox, what do they call it? Full screen
Full screen
experience.
experience. Yeah.
Yeah, you'll have that right off the bat with the Ally X. So might as well just get that instead. I mean, or if you would just wanted to say, I'd rather get something more more cost friendly, just get a Steam Deck. But honestly, any of those options will be much better than just getting this. I mean, I think this is just going way too far, and I think I honestly could see a price cut come maybe within like a year, just because these things are not selling as well as Lenovo would like them to sell. Because like this is, you're really asking a lot here, one way or another.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all I have.
Yeah, so I understand that the main reason for the price being so high is because, unlike with Steam, they don't have a storefront to help offset those costs. They don't have anything that can basically help make up for how expensive it is to make. But as powerful as it is, that price is just too high. And I'm sorry, it's just not going to do well. Now, if if they wanted to send me one, I would absolutely happily take it. I would love to check it out. I would love to have a more powerful PC handheld. I would happily test it out. I was interested with the first Lenovo Legion Go. Like, that was one that I was very interested in, and this one looks even better. But that price is just insane. I mean, the base model is about the same price as I paid for my laptop, which is a Lenovo laptop, and that is much more powerful. Um, or at least, I guess it's at least equally powerful, if not more powerful. And just is a whole lot more user friendly when it comes to actually being able to do all of the functions of a PC because it's an actual PC. But that $1,479, oof, that's just way too much. It's like you could get a pretty dang great gaming laptop for that price. You could build a good computer for that price, a good desktop computer for that price. Yes, it wouldn't be portable, and in that case, I would say just get a better laptop, because I mean, for that price, you could get probably a pretty solid laptop with a great GPU and stuff. But, ugh, that's way too much, and I don't know what they're thinking with this. Like, it's companies like this that just don't seem to quite understand what the market wants. Yes, we love the PC handhelds. They're great. There will be some people who will buy it, but it's going to be a very small number compared to the others. And the problem is that even though it will probably be more powerful than like the Xbox Ally and the Xbox Ally X, it's also so much more expensive. And on top of that, it doesn't have enough to, I don't know. The problem is that they gave it more power than it really needs, and it's like, okay, yes, I'm gonna make this super powerful handheld that lots of people would love to have, but nobody wants to spend that much money on it, with the exception of people who just have way more money than they have expenses. People who can afford to do that, or just want it so bad, have such FOMO that they're willing to spend that kind of money. But I know I won't spend that money. I mean, the fact that I wasn't even willing to go for the Xbox Ally X, and I think the thing looks great, but like, no, I don't care enough about the power for that. Like, I don't know what these companies are thinking. And to be clear, like, I like Lenovo products. I've been really impressed with them. I mean, we'd gotten a laptop for the church that was Lenovo, and that was what convinced me that I wanted to get one myself when I got a laptop, and it's been great. I mean, I don't use it as much for gaming lately. I kind of go through phases. Mostly, like, I was using it a lot when I was playing Expedition 33, and then here and there I'll play it, but mostly I'm using it for video production and that sort of thing. Um, but I mean, like, I think it's a great laptop. I really like it. It's been really, really helpful for more practical purposes than anything else, and occasionally gaming. But I I'm sorry, no. $1,500, $1,479 plus tax, probably going to be around the 1,600 plus range altogether after taxes. It's not worth it to me. It's just not. It's too much. And like I said, Lenovo, if you want to send me one to review for you, I will happily do it. I will happily take it from you, but I'm not buying one. Not a chance. Now, if someone wanted to sell me one for like $600, I would spend $600 on it. But even that would be a little bit of a hard. Well, I would say the only reason I would spend $600, the only way I would actually spend that money is if it was just like, this is my one and only chance to get it for $600, because I don't need one. And I mean, yeah, it would easily way more powerful than the Steam Deck and would be really nice from that perspective. And I like some of the features. I like their Joy-Con equivalents, whatever they're calling them. But nah, that's okay. Anyway, I'm done. All right. Well, moving on into our next topic, unless you had anything else to say on that.
No, I'm good.
All right. So, Nintendo has officially announced that they are ceasing support for repairing the new 2DS XL, um, which makes it so that now none of their 3DSs are available for repair anymore. So it used to be for a while there you could still send in a 3DS, 2DS. They've slowly pulled back support for the older models, and I think as of a year or two ago, they were still doing even the regular 2DS, because I know I had to send in both of my boys' 2DSs to get repaired in the past. And I had one point also sent in my new 3DS XL to get repaired. But the now officially they no longer repair them. They stopped making the parts to fix them, and they've officially stopped fixing all models of it. So I definitely have some thoughts as someone who is a big fan of the 3DS, despite my disdain for Nintendo right now. What are your thoughts?
I'm I'm of a double mindset with this. On one hand, I kind of get it. I mean, I know that you're not going to support a device forever, and so I mean, you're not going to, send in or be able to send in, say your like original DS model to get that repaired because they just don't repair it anymore. So I definitely understand them, eventually running out of parts. Um and I mean, I don't remember when the 2DS XL initially released. I don't know when that was. But I know it's probably been at least a good while, maybe 8 years or so, maybe even more, because that released before the Switch, I want to say. Yeah, so at least that long. Um, but
No, it might have been after the Switch, actually. I think it was.
oh, okay, so
Maybe I'm
sooner than
wrong.
that. But at the same time, while technically, well, I mean, it depends on how you view the Switch. If you view it as more so a console rather than a handheld, but it's it's part of a device family that came out 2 generations ago. So I mean, I kind of would have liked to have seen a little longer support on that end, but like I said, I understand resources not being available. But on the other hand, though, I think that plays into the fact that we should have the ability to have more support as far as being able to fix these devices ourselves. And that's something that is a bit of a problem, I would say. Of course, there are, guides online, there are things you can do. But I feel like some of the things that, as far as being able to fix products, is just a part of it's just on the manufacturers themselves. Like, I think the biggest
Mm-hmm.
problem, for example, is the fact that, at least for many of Nintendo's devices, they require those triangle screwdrivers, or at least or the hexagon screwdrivers as well, which is something
Yeah.
that you ordinarily do not have. And so
Right.
unless you have an iFixit kit or some other, you know, repair kits that has those types of screwdrivers, you're not going to have something like that to be able to, try to fix that yourself, which which I think really lies on these manufacturers who try to make it difficult for ordinary people to get in and repair or modify their devices. Products that they bought themselves. They spent money
Mm-hmm.
to buy these things, but they can't go ahead and do that because the manufacturers just won't let them, or make it easy enough for them to do it themselves. Um, so I and it really makes me think sort of like down the road when the Switch eventually isn't going to get its support anymore. And I mean, sure, right now, you can go ahead and send in your Joy-Cons to get them repaired. But what are you going to do, you know, 10, 15 years later when Nintendo doesn't support repairs anymore? And, oh, my Joy-Con is drifting. I want to get that fixed. Can't send that to Nintendo. Then, what are you going to do then? So I think it really just shows, I think this situation just emphasizes how important the right to repair mentality is. Being able to repair this stuff yourself, or having the tools or ease of being able to repair them yourself, or have someone else be able to repair that. Because if you have to rely solely on these manufacturers to repair your devices, you're in trouble, because eventually they're not going to be able to do it, or they won't do it anymore, and that means your device is pretty much just a brick, or it's just e-waste at that point, which is just a shame. And I mean, yeah, there are definitely people out there who can fix these themselves. I mean, I've seen people who have found like these old consoles that have been damaged, or had some sort of problems with them, defects whatsoever, and they've gone and refurbished them and make them like brand new, or they do some sort of special modifications to them, and they have cool designs or new features, and like it's awesome. The problem is, you have to have some sort of special tools to do that, rather than if you just have a basic, you should be able to just get a Phillips head, or something like that, and just be able to go ahead, open up your device, fix whatever the problem is, and go about your business. But unfortunately, that's not the case with a lot of Nintendo products, sadly. So again, I understand that they're not going to support, the 2DS forever. But at the same time, the problem is, if they can't or won't fix it, then that means we have to fix it, and they make it hard for us to do that. But yeah, that's essentially everything I have on that end.
So one thing that I did just notice, I looked at that article again, and it says that is specifically Japan, where they are no longer going to be fixing them. The U.S., it looks like you might still be able to do it for the time being. Either way, like I guess I would say, if you do live in the U.S. and you have a 2DS or 3DS or anything that you want to get fixed, do it as soon as possible. Just this is basically your last chance. So keep that in mind. And I did look it up, and it came out in July 2017 was when the new 2DS XL came out. So it was just after the Switch. But yeah, as far as all that goes, I definitely understand, like you said, them having to stop doing it after a certain point. They just stop making the parts and all that. I hope that there's going to be some aftermarket parts made that make it still possible to repair, because there are things about it, from what I understand, that are really difficult to fix, but then there are some things that are not quite as bad. Like with my new 3DS XL, it wasn't overly difficult, but I was able to swap out the C stick for one of those the little nubs that they use on Lenovo laptops, which I don't even know why those exist. They're terrible. But for this, it's great, because it's way better than the C stick, because the C stick was just garbage. It was like a little eraser that I mean, when you try to move it around, it's like it's so inconsistent, and I hated that so much. But you can it's not too difficult to get in and swap it out for one of these, and it's way better. You could also swap it for like the PSP little stick that was on the PSP. I tried doing that. I didn't like it quite as much. It didn't work as well for me, but this one works great, because the main thing is that it has a grip on it, because it's a textured grip, so it's much easier to maintain a grip, because the little eraser thing was just like, it had no grip to it, and so it was just really inconsistent. And but yeah, and then like the circle pad, I got these Japan only circle pad covers that you could get. that would give it so that it actually had a grip on it. And like this one has like the circle pattern similar to what you have on the GameCube controllers or the GameCube joysticks. And like I like it so much that I was one of those insane people that actually would choose this as my controller for Smash Brothers Wii U. Because I got used to playing the 3DS version of Smash Brothers, and of course having that nice joystick there. I mean, having the cover on the circle pad made it easier to play, and so I would intentionally choose this as my controller for playing Smash Wii U, which I didn't play as much as the 3DS version, but yeah, I mean, like I love this handheld, and I really think that um for those out there who don't have a 3DS already, if you ever come across a good deal on a 3DS, especially the new 3DS, try to grab one because they're expensive now. It's like they're crazy expensive. I think I was looking it up the other day and it was like $250 for one of these things, if not more. For this or the 2DS XL. The 2DSs are pretty cheap. You can still get those pretty reasonably priced, but the 3DS and the new 3DS, new 3DS XL, and the new 2DS XL are all a lot more expensive to get nowadays. But with this kind of thing, like this is the perfect opportunity. Do the custom firmware, because then you can back up any physical games you have digitally, especially because these cartridge slots do wear out. And in fact, mine's had issues off and on. So you can back that up. You can back up your saves. You can install homebrew games and or things that were exclusive to Japan, like the Final Fantasy 1 3D remake that they put on here. Or well, I guess I don't know if it's considered a remake or if it's just a port, but it's Final Fantasy 1, but it has the 3D effect, and it's a full version that they just released in Japan. But you can get it with the English translation. You can do Virtual Boy emulation on here, which is like the perfect place to play Virtual Boy instead of on an actual Virtual Boy. And of course, there's just a ton of amazing games on this platform. So yeah, lots of good stuff you can do with this device. It's just a matter of being able to track it down and get one for a decent price. So if you're able to, if you don't have one and you come across one that's a good price, you should grab it, take advantage, and then mod it and enjoy all the benefits, because there's such an amazing library on this thing. I have probably like 50 games or so on here. And that includes, I digitized all of my physical games, so I have them all on here digitally in addition to the actual physical copies I still have, as well as some stuff that is that you could only get through homebrew, and some of the stuff that was originally like exclusive to ambassadors, like the Game Boy Advance and well, really just the Game Boy Advance game, because those only came to those of us who bought the 3DS before they did the price drop. And so you can get the Game Boy Advance games on here, the handful of them that are present on the system. Oh, and you can put DS games on here. I have all my DS games backed up on here as well, or at least the ones I wanted to back up. So yeah. And you can mod the controls so that you can use like the analog controls for Super Mario 64 DS, whereas before the only way to do that was with the touch screen, the stylus and the touch screen. Anyway, I'm kind of going off on a tangent there, because even though I really am not happy with Nintendo right now, I still think the 3DS is a fantastic handheld, and especially when you do the software modification. Anyway, that's all I have to say on that topic.
I'll just quickly add that I did not know that the 3DSs were so expensive now. I mean, I haven't been checking, but that's definitely interesting to hear.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think probably the older 3DSs are less expensive, but the new 3DS, which is more powerful and has some exclusive games, including like the Super Nintendo Virtual Console stuff and Minecraft, which that's one of the reasons why I was looking at it, was because I wanted to be able to get one. I wanted to be able to do it with Minecraft for my kids, give them another way to play it. But I mean, that's just way too expensive for that. I might actually have to look and see if I can find a Vita for a reasonable price, because I think you can probably get a Vita for cheaper than the new 2DS, and Minecraft will run better on there most likely. So anyway, all right. I think this whole thing about the PS6 detachable disk drive, it's kind of a mess story, but do you want to talk about it, or do you have any other topics you want to talk about?
I can talk about this one.
Okay.
All right, so we do have a rumor about the PS6, and it's primarily discussing about its features, mainly just like the fact that it's supposed to have, I think from what I can tell here, because the way some of this was phrased in the article was a bit, or at least the way it was worded was a bit confusing, but it will have a detachable disk drive similar to the PS5. And while I think the wording here was a little messed up, there are supposedly two versions similar to the PS5. There's going to be a completely digital version as well as a traditional console that has a disk drive, but you could also still go ahead and purchase a detachable disk drive separately. Additionally, the article says that Sony wanted to make the PS6 a bit more, what was the exact wording? Slim. They wanted to make the design more efficient and simple, more simple than it was for the PS5. And so, it could possibly be smaller, it could be lighter as well. And part of it was also because that, or at least it's theorized that it could be because of, tariffs and stuff like that. And so for pricing, and so that's why they wanted to work on this. And yeah, that's essentially everything regarding that. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I don't have much to say about it. Really, this isn't surprising at all. Just one person I saw suggested that this might end up being not even one that's like attachable to the console, but just a separate like USB disk drive, and that would be it, because Sony's trying to keep costs down as much as possible. On their end, not on the consumer end. And that it could very easily be they'll charge $100 for this disk drive, or at least for the version that includes a disk drive. I could very easily see them being like, okay, if you get the version that includes a disk drive that's not actually attached to the console, we'll charge you an extra $100. If you buy the disk drive separately, the disk drive will be $150. Something insane like that. I could see that happening, but I mean, they, like every other company, wants to kill physical. They want to kill physical, and I mean, it's good that they'll still offer the drive, but who knows how many of those games are actually going to be on the disc versus just being a coaster. So that's really all I have to say on that front.
Yeah. And it's interesting you mentioning about how the detachable disk drive is formed. I mean, I wasn't thinking of it being, just plugged in via USB. But I almost could see Sony just doing that, just having an external disk drive at that, and not something that you actually just attach. And I mean, I mean, technically, would that make it easier on their end? As far as costs go, maybe. I mean, it might be cheaper than having, say, like a solid module that you just plug in into a slot on the actual console. I don't know, but who knows? That I mean, if it plays into their idea of trying to make the design simpler, that could work. But I don't know. I feel like that would have its own set of problems, especially depending on how you want to position your console as well, especially depending on how long it is too, because if you're trying to like set it just like on the floor or something, having, you know, an external slim tray isn't really feasible just to have it on the floor, something like that. But who knows? But yeah, but similar to what you said though, it definitely is a sign of digital being phased out. I mean, considering the fact that
Physical being phased out.
yeah, I'm sorry, physical being phased out. Now I don't remember what the metrics were, but I feel like games are at least being as far as like sales go, it's around 60%, maybe higher for digital. And I mean, you know, if we're discussing consoles coming out with a digital version, then, you know, could this even be like the last generation coming up where we have physical, or will it just be like the equivalent of a key card situation from that point forward?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's really all I have to say on this.
Good stuff. Well, at least your comments are good stuff. The rest of it is just like, you know, not surprising, but it is what it is. All right. Well, I guess let's start closing out for the night. So, starting with our recommendations and dissuasions.
All right. So I've got a couple recommendations here. My first recommendation is if you are, well, at least if you are using Pro Tools, I'll put it like that, and you're using MIDI, in general, I would say if you're using MIDI to record your tracks from MIDI to audio, so that way you have a pure audio track that you don't have to worry about, because in the event of something happens to your MIDI track, it won't impact your audio track. That's completely recorded. It's its own audio file, so you're good there. And you know, it's gonna be easier to, you know, I mean, you'll still be able to do your regular stuff as far as like EQ, effects, and then any other thing you want to do, but you don't have to worry about anything being messed up on that end. And I mean, additionally, if you don't even like your audio track, you could still just go back and re-record the MIDI into audio. But I just think that's just good practice in general. But especially if you're having issues with notes not being sustained, I would say to definitely go ahead and record them into audio tracks, so that way, no matter what, that note will always be sustained in an audio track, since it's a pure recording. But then also, I would say to record that MIDI track into an audio track as soon as you start up Pro Tools, so that way it will work during that duration. And you know, and that way you don't have to worry about that anymore on that end. Second sort of recommendation, and this is something that I've mentioned before in the past, but I feel like especially what happened over this weekend, it definitely demands being repeated, is to consistently save your progress. I happened to save my progress as I was working on the music, and after I had done a save and I went and just shifted the volume slightly for one of the tracks, Pro Tools crashed. And had I not saved, like, a lot of my work would have been gone, and I would have just been livid. So I definitely can't stress how important, constantly saving your work is, because you
Mm-hmm.
will be very upset if you lose a lot of work. And then I guess my final recommendation is for if you're playing Minecraft in survival mode, especially if you're playing on normal difficulty or higher, if you have resources you do not want to lose, make sure that you constantly add them into a chest before you go out. Otherwise, if you die, you're not able to reclaim your items, you'll be probably just as upset as if you had just lost a lot of work in Pro Tools. So yeah, those are my recommendations.
All good stuff, especially the saving regularly. I mean, pretty much there are very few exceptions where you can get away with not saving regularly. And personally, I think it's just a good idea every 10 to 10 minutes or so, just save. Especially, I mean, just use the keyboard shortcut Control S on PC, or I think it's probably Command S on Macs, something like that. But either way, yes, I agree. Save frequently. My recommendations. So the first one is actually, since I forgot to write this down, or rather, I just thought of it. My very first recommendation is, if you have not already checked it out, go to Justin's channel and check out the full version of the Orange Box podcast intro. It's a couple minutes long, and it's fantastic. Extremely well done. Really good stuff. I'll probably start including it in some form in the podcast, the full podcast. I thought about putting it as the outro, but I feel like it would just be because the way I have the music put together there is so like ingrained in how we've done it since the very beginning. I want to include it somewhere else, and so I'm going to try to have it near the beginning of the podcast so that you can hear the full thing consistently, and that'll be like our opening thing fully. But anyway, regardless, go check it out. Next recommendation is something that is random that we tried. So we had gotten for my wife's birthday these mini cheesecake bites from Sam's Club, which are just so good. But putting ghost pepper hot honey on a regular mini cheesecake, just standard New York cheesecake, just put some ghost pepper hot honey on it. It's like amazing. So good. So good. So yes, hot honey on cheesecake. Particularly that ghost pepper stuff, if you can handle the heat. I do have another food recommendation, just because it has been something that I've been obsessed with lately, and that is breakfast tacos. I mean, breakfast burritos are great, of course. I've always loved breakfast burritos, but breakfast tacos, especially with corn tortillas. I mean, it's great with flour tortillas, but lately I've been doing it with corn tortillas a lot, and it's just so good. Especially because for the same amount of calories that I would get, I mean, if I did 2 flour tortillas, it's the same amount of calories as 4 corn tortillas. And so 4 corn tortillas enables me to do 4 smaller tacos, and each one with a different kind of hot sauce. And so it's like, yeah, gives me an excuse to have multiple kinds of hot sauce. Unlike my buddy, who's the son of Nigerian immigrants, who he can put like 5 or 6 different sauces on one thing and somehow able to taste every single distinct flavor, which I can't do. My taste buds are not that refined, but yeah. So yes, breakfast tacos.
I've got a question. So where
Mm.
did you get the idea to add you know uh uh honey pepper to cheesecakes?
Oh, hot honey.
I mean hot honey to cheesecakes.
It was just random. I mean, it's like we had the ghost pepper hot honey on the counter, and it goes well with a variety of different things, and I just thought, hey, that would go well together, and sure enough, it did.
Okay, interesting. I'll definitely have to look into that. I might not do the ghost peppers, but I might try regular hot honey on
Yeah.
the cheesecakes.
Yep. All right, dissuasions.
All right. Ooh. I guess I will try to form something as a dissuasion. If you are pressed for time and you say had something you originally planned to cook, but you really just don't have the time, don't cook the thing you originally planned to do. Go ahead and prepare something else that would be simpler, because you might be too pressed and not have enough time to do whatever you need to do. That is something that I had happened this past week, where I did schedule to make something for a meal for dinner a certain day, but because things in my schedule were shifted around, it would be a bit tight if I decided to cook that. But I decided to be stubborn and do it anyway, and I realized that while it technically worked out, it would have been a whole lot easier if I just made something else and just cooked that the following day. But yeah, so don't do that. Go ahead and prepare something if it's possible. If it's not possible, obviously, go ahead and do that. But if it is possible, make things easier on yourself and just prepare that simpler dish and make the other thing the following day, because it might be a bit of a headache if you're pressed for time.
Agreed completely. I've been there many times. All right, my dissuasion, first of all, is Whataburger's coffee. Whataburger, their coffee is disgusting. It is terrible. So I dissuade you from drinking that coffee. Now, if you're not picky about coffee and you drink like Folgers, it's probably better than that. But if you're used to drinking good fresh ground coffee and everything like that, coffee that isn't burnt, then go for then don't drink Whataburger coffee. My next dissuasion is I can't remember exactly how you get there, but you have the option to, if you go to the right setting in Windows, to change what Windows boots into when it starts up. By default, it's set to Explorer, which is what brings up basically all the normal Windows stuff. So my dissuasion is, do not change the shell to boot directly into Steam without having Explorer boot right after that, because it just makes things more complicated. And while, yes, you get the more of the quote-unquote console-like experience, if anything goes wrong, it's more of a pain to fix it that way. So it's better to at least have that boot up second, so that it just boots up in the background, and then if you need to go to Windows and mess with stuff, you can do it easily. So yeah. So that's what I got.
That's very useful. That's very good to know.
All right, where can people find you?
They can find me on my channel. I am Xeracon. That's IAMXERACON. So youtube.com/@IamXeracon. As mentioned throughout this episode, I've put out the full theme for the podcast on my channel. Check that out. I still have the Spider-Man animated series re-review coming out. I just have to finish watching the final season, and then I'll get all that straight taken care of. But that might come out either late next week or possibly the following week. Well, but I'll just have to see. But yeah, that's everything I have immediately so far.
Good stuff. All right, well, you can find me on my YouTube gaming channel at the Frozen Gamer 87. There isn't anything new that I have coming soon, or well, I should say, I don't have anything that I have put together yet to go up, but I have bits and pieces of a couple different projects that I've worked on. I'm hoping in the next couple of weeks to have, at minimum, the review for that controller that I've been testing out, as well as the things that are what I don't love about PC gaming. I can't remember what exactly I was going to title it, but the point is that the downsides of PC gaming. I think that's what I was going to call it. So I intend to have that video up as well. It's just a matter of putting it together. Like, I've been brainstorming ideas, trying to get everything organized properly a bit, but I haven't had as much time to work on it as I wanted to. But I've also kind of like been recording some clips for the eventual video of the common misconceptions about PC gaming and that sort of thing. So it's like there's several different things I'm like working on and have bits and pieces being prepared, but I don't have anything like any single thing ready to go anytime soon. So I'm hoping probably in the next couple of weeks I will have at least one of those projects, if not two of them, up and running. I've just decided more and more, like, it's always been more of an idea that I wanted my content to be more evergreen, just because of the fact that I'm not putting out content consistently. But even more so, that's true now, where I really just want it to be something that it is something you can come to at any time and it's still going to be relevant, rather than just being, a very dated conversation that is no longer no longer applicable, isn't relevant anymore. So, and also because, I'm not looking at this as anything that will ever go anywhere beyond just doing it as a hobby. So, try to put out quality over quantity in these cases. Something that will be coming up, still about a month and a half away, thereabouts, is my next 24-hour stream for Stack Up. This will be my fifth year. Seriously, I think this is 4th year. Should be my 4th year doing Stack Up. So that's going to be October 24th, Friday, October 24th. Originally, I was going to do it the last Friday of October, but then I realized that's Halloween, so that's probably not going to work real well. So I'm gonna do it the 24th of October, probably starting 9 a.m. Central Time, going until 9 a.m. Central Time the following morning. And so keep eyes peeled for that. Hopefully, I'll have all of that. Start working on stuff related to that, because I need to reconfigure stuff with OBS and everything to get it set up, and it's going to be using my laptop to stream rather than the secondary PC. So all that is still in process. It's just I requested the time off. I got the time off approved, and so it's just a matter of doing all the organization and hopefully getting some testing done and all that good stuff soonish. But yeah, that's it for that. There's, of course, the YouTube and Rumble channels for the podcasts. On YouTube, that's at the Orange Box Podcast. On Rumble, it's not a custom URL, but the video version of the podcast goes live there as well, same time. So it goes live every Friday, 7 a.m. Central Time, barring any technical issues. And then there's the audio-only version of the podcast, which goes live at 12 a.m. Central Time every Friday, barring any technical issues. And that goes on every major audio podcast platform, including Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, Spotify, Deezer, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Pandora, if I didn't already say that, and other ones that I can't think of off the top of my head. But it's all over the place, so you can find it pretty much any audio podcast platform that you check. And then lastly, I have my YouTube cooking channel, Not Authentic But Delicious. That's YouTube at NABD Cooking. No recipes in quite a while, but there's still somewhere between 30 and 40 recipes up on the channel. Lots of good stuff, and if I can start recording some stuff soon, then hopefully I will start getting more up again. It's just a matter of having the time and everything to actually do the recording and the editing and everything else. It's just, all of it's a lot of work, so that's why it hasn't been regular in a long time. But that is everything. All right. Last chance. Any final thoughts?
No, sir.
All right. Well, I am the Frozen Gamer 87. That is I am Zeracon. We are the Orange Box Podcast. And until next time, you too can be discontinued by Nintendo and have them stop repairing you. Orange Box Podcast out.